Okay, so I've just got it set up.
Or are you gonna go?
I'm just gonna go so I can eat, and then that way.
So do I need to push
No,
anything?
it's all
It's going?
recording.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Just me and you. And I don't even know you, so I get to know you. Do you want to do English or Spanish?
Does it matter?
I don't care. Whatever you
Okay, I
you
can
feel
say
like
it
talking
in
in right
English.
now.
I speak better in English, actually.
Okay. English is good then. So, let's just start by you introducing yourself, and I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, and feel free to like go in as much detail as you want. If you don't have much to say, you can just be like, okay, let's try a different question. I'm gonna not like interrupt you, obviously, because it's a recording and we don't want my voice on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna kind of let you go until you choose to stop. So let's start with you saying your name, where you're from, or what is your heritage, where's your family from, and how did people get here from wherever they came from, whether it was you or your folks, and where you live now. So
Okay.
just with those simple ones.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Well, my name is Miriam Corona, and I was born in Michoacan, Mexico. And my family immigrated to the United States here in Oregon. They've never lived anywhere else. My grandpa first came over here in the early 80s, and he became a resident in the 1986 amnesty. And soon after that, my grandma immigrated over here. And then I was born in 1990, and my dad, after I was born, he was coming back from Mexico and Oregon off and on. And then when I was 9 months old, my mom and I came here to Oregon with my aunt, and she had a 2-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. And so my mom told me that the way they came here is that they traveled up to the Mexican-US border, and the way they came is that there was a wired fence, and they dug a hole big enough to crawl under it. And so then, I was 9 months old, and my mom couldn't crawl under it with me in her arms. And so there was this gangster-looking guy on the US border, and he offered help. And so my mom said she said she handed me to this stranger because she needed to cross over. And so I was in this stranger's arms, someone she didn't even know. And so we made it to Oregon, and I've been living here ever since. I've never seen Mexico, so I can't say that anything here reminds me of Mexico, because I don't know what life is like there, and I don't know what it looks like. I've never lived fully in a Mexican culture. There's a lot of Mexican culture here, and for that, I'm very proud that I know part of my culture. But unfortunately, I've never been there, and I love America. I call this my home. English is my first language now. I do speak Spanish, but it's not my first language. And I think living here, I learned to dream big, to have big dreams, and to know that anything is possible. I think that's the biggest thing that this country has taught me, and that is a big part of me. And I don't know anything else other than living here and being a Mexican American. Yeah.
So can you, I think that's awesome. You're a pretty good speaker, just like impromptu like that. Can you tell me more about about the community you live in? I don't know if you've lived in the same exact community the whole time that you've been in Oregon, but what do you consider your home? What is your community? What's it like, if you can just describe it? Your circle of friends, your family, I don't know if you're school or working, but what's your community and where you spend your time?
Okay, well, for the most part of my life, I've lived in the same town. It's a rural town where there are a lot of farms nearby, and these farms, mostly everybody there is Anglo. I would say maybe 30% of the town is Mexican, and it's a small town, around 5,000 people. And growing up, when I was going to school, you didn't see a lot of Hispanic kids being overachievers. And it was, for like me, I was one of those overachievers, but there wasn't a lot of kids who were like that. And I think now, as the years pass by, there has been a big change in the Hispanic culture, and there are more kids having that ambition to better their lives. And this small town that I lived in, the community there is very strong. It's very friendly, and they are welcoming to everybody there. And I think that's a great thing about where I live because excuse me. I need some water.
Do you want to get some? Do you have something out here?
I think I left it out there.
We're reading loud.
I've only used one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about what you do in your community, what you're part of, like if you're an achiever, what do you like to achieve?
Well, I went to a community college. I have an associate's degree, and I'm trying to transfer to get my bachelor's degree, but I'm waiting to see if I'm accepted or not. But in the meantime, I am working with the social justice group that we formed, part of my church. It's called San Martin. It's a Catholic church, and we are advocating for immigrant rights. We are doing things such as citizenship classes, immigration workshop. We are soon going to do a workshop about our civil rights. And basically, we are just trying to help immigrants in our community. And we are trying to give them the tools to empower their lives.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Right on. Cool. I think that's good for a short video.
Okay.
And we'll see. I'm not going to turn this off because I don't know how to turn it back on.
Okay.
But let's see if someone else wants to do it. And Kayla brought the consent form. Alright. Well, let's just do a short one for a couple minutes. We could do more later if we want to. But so she was funny because she kept looking into the camera.
Oh, okay.
But I think probably the
It's
normal
better
thing
to
is
just-
for you to look at me.
Okay.
But actually, I don't know if you can tilt your head down a little bit.
Should I take my glasses off? Maybe if that.
Yeah, it's a little more personal. The way the light is, I think when your head's up, it kind of shines bright on it.
So where should I be looking?
You should be looking like a little bit lower. Like if I go right here, I think that's gonna work good.
Okay.
So I'll just stay here. So why don't you just start with your name, your cultural background, or I don't know if you are an immigrant or not, and so where does your family come from? What are your cultural roots?
Okay.
And then where are you living now?
Okay. So my name is Maria Sandoval, and I've been in Oregon for about 21 years now, and I'm actually born in Mexico, but my parents brought me here when I was 6 months old. My parents decided to leave the country for a better life. And so they actually crossed me like, and I know that this term sometimes is offensive to some people, but I always say as a little mojadita. But that's how I was crossed, and so I didn't really have a choice. They brought me here, and back then, when 34 years ago, it was pretty easy to become a resident, and my parents became residents very quickly, and then I became a resident after that. So both my parents are Mexican, and I still have my Mexican citizenship, so I have dual citizenship. I live in Dayton, and I love this community.
So tell me about what you consider home to be, and what kind of significance that has for you.
That actually is it's a hard question for me to answer, because I really consider, like, as my citizenship, my dual citizenship, I really consider that I have two homes. Even though I didn't live in Mexico for very long, we used to go on vacations, and we'd spend summers there, and so for me, Mexico has a special place in my heart, and so for me that'll always be a home. But my children were born here, and so this is my other home. So I feel like my roots are still in Mexico, but I still consider that the U.S. is really my permanent home.
So you're working with this group, Mujeres Latinas Luchando por el Pueblo, I think. Is that the name?
Right.
Sweet. So maybe you can repeat that name again, since my voice is not going to be in the final recording, and tell me the group that you're working with, why you decided to work with them, and what are both the things that you want to uphold about your culture or about your community, and what are the things that you want to change through organizing in the group.
So our group, Mujeres Latinas Luchando por el Pueblo, which we just basically use the acronym MLLP, was started actually just this year, and it's a group that's serving at San Martin, a Catholic church in Dayton. And it was actually started after we began our fight to save our church. We faced the threat of it being closed, and so in organizing a group of people protesting the proposed closure, this group was born out of that, because we realized that in large groups we can really affect change, and so we felt after we were done like we were obligated to keep going, and so we obtained a grant through the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, and so through that grant we started the group. And so part of what we've been doing is offering leadership workshops, citizenship classes, offering a college night for parents and for students, and basically just giving people the tools that they need to empower themselves and to really be more educated on some of the issues around them and for their children and their families. Like I said, I have two children who were both born here. I personally don't allow my kids to speak English in the home. They've grown up hearing Spanish since they were little, and that's the only thing that they speak. And part of it has to do with the fact that my parents are not fluent in English, and so for me, if they were to lose the Spanish language, then their relationship would be lost. And so it's always been important for me to keep that as a very important part of just who they are. So I think that part of the language barriers can create also then cause some of the problems between cultures when you're not really able to understand each other. And so for me, it's just making sure that I keep those roots as making sure that I maintain the language with my kids, and having hopefully them pass that on to their kids also. One of the things that we would like to do is make sure that we acknowledge how important it is to maintain those roots. I think that it's very hard sometimes in a culture where you feel like immigrants are being attacked, to feel like the best thing to do is simply assimilate and leave behind everything that you were or are or your roots. But I don't think that's the answer. I think it's education, and that's hopefully what we're doing with our group, is educating people about some of the great things that immigrants bring to this country, and hopefully that'll help change people's minds.
Cool. That's great. I kept thinking of all these questions and then you would answer them without me even asking them. That was great. Yeah, let's just leave it at that for
Okay.
the
And then let me
short
talk to
interview.
Frank, because that, I mean, if we can do that and